Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now today, you may be thinking that this right here is a regular office desktop PC. However, today I will be showing you how to make this, run games such as this, and this for less than $50 US. Let's get right into the video. So here we have the actual computer. I've opened it up as you can see, and I'm going to go over the actual original specs of it. So underneath here, of course, we have the heatsink, the actual CPU cooler. Underneath that, we have an i5 4590S that's clocked in at currently 3 GHz. It's a quad core from the Haswell era, the 4th generation of CPUs from Intel. It's obviously quite an old CPU, coming out in probably around 2014 still, but it's still very capable running games, especially with what we're going to be putting through. So unless you're looking to do more extreme workloads, this will be perfect for gaming, currently at least, especially for a budget option. As for the RAM, you can't see it's behind here, right there. There are two sticks of DDR3. They're 4GB each, leading up to 4GB of DDR3 RAM. Obviously, is DDR down. It's an older version of RAM, but that's because the motherboard, obviously CPU, will not support DDR4. However, for gaming and stuff, it will really not make much difference. Especially unless you're running AMD for some reason, like Ryzen, but obviously we're not, so it doesn't really matter. Just here is a 500GB Toshiba HDD, which is perfectly fine. You can run games in there. Got Windows and a bunch of games in there. We'll be testing in a bit. And runs fine. It's not too slow. Obviously, you can put SSD in. There is enough space. You could probably just fit like right here. There's a bit of space. But yeah, now the main point of the video. Making this capable of running games. Now, this is very simple. As I said, I can do this for less than $50. Now, the main cost of this video comes from the fact that these PCs are often cast out by businesses and offices all the time. And if you want, you can get them literally for free, just like I have done. I didn't pay for this, it's for free. Now, if you're looking for a budget option, you can make these very capable of running games by doing one very simple thing. Putting a graphics card in. Now obviously there is not much space, so a full graphics card, like for example, I'm just going to grab this older GTX 660. Of course, if I was to put that in, that's not going to fit in there. Now what you need for these to work is a low power GPU. Now what I have gone with is a GT 710. I have slightly modified it to make it fit properly. I've removed the VGA slot. There's supposed to be a VGA thing there. And I've removed the backplate. Oh, it's not really a backplate, it's the sort of IO shield thing. The backplate would go here, but... Wait, this is a graphics card you can get for cheap. I actually paid £35, which is probably about $40 for it. It's a 2GB card. And for the games we're running, it's just perfect. And it is a low profile, and as you can see, this might be a bit awkward with one hand, but... Just it slots right in there, perfect. Boom, lock it up, and you can still close the actual ring. So that is the actual build. It's a GT 710, 2GB. We will actually have a slight overclock on it. I will talk about that in a bit. But right now, let's get to the benchmarks. See you in a second. Okay, so on with the benchmarks. Now, the first game that we tested was Counter-Strike Global Offensive. To do this, I used the Uletical FPS benchmark map, which is available on Steam Workshop, as it has some pretty intense scenarios which won't happen in game, some that do happen in game, and I believe will give you a pretty decent score on your frame rate. Obviously, it may vary in the actual game, but I believe it's a bit more intense in the actual game, so it should give you a decent average frame rate. The settings used here was 1280 by 720p, so it was 720p gameplay, and all settings on low, except for multiple rendering turned on, which, as most people should know, is how you would want to play Counter-Strike, since you want to maximize frame rate and maximize visibility. In the end, the game averaged out to about 93 frames per second, which I think is pretty good for, you know, a 35 quid, $40 upgrade to a basically free computer. The next game that was benchmarked was another popular Steam title, Dota 2, and we ran Dota 2 at all high settings with no advanced options, and everything was maxed out except for shadows, which were on high, not ultra, because shadows do kill frame rate in pretty much every game. The resolution was 1080p, 19x1080, and the scaling was 100%. And we averaged out a really good frame rate. It was very playable and, well, good looking experience for, you know, a very cheap upgrade. The game stuck to over 50 frames most of the time. It dropped a bit lower during the starting bit where everyone spawns in, and in a bit more intense scenarios maybe dropped to the high 40s. However, it was a very playable and enjoyable experience. The next game that was tested is probably the most graphically demanding game out of all the ones that have been tested. This is Skyrim Special Edition, and I had it running at all low settings with 1368 by 768 resolution, which is a pseudo 1080p between 720p-esque sort of laptop resolution, which can look nice sometimes, and it looks pretty solid here. The game, when in more populated areas such as Riverwood, as you can see at the start of the clip, runs around 30 FPS, which is a playable experience. However, when going up further into the wilderness, it goes up into the 40s, at some places even 50s, which I feel is a pretty good performance from this computer. The next game tested was obviously something that we couldn't do this without: Fortnite. Probably one of the most popular games still. And on this PC, on all low settings and 1080p with 100% resolution scaling, it was running at a pretty good frame rate, if I'm honest. In the lobby before the game, it was running at above 40, between 40 and 50. When dropping down, it fell a bit to about 30-ish. However, when the actual game started, I was running around the houses looting. I was getting 50 to 60 frames per second, and outside I was getting about 40. So I'm pretty sure it's a pretty playable frame rate. And I did actually play a full game yesterday. It's like the first time I played properly, and I managed to win on this PC, so I guess it has a good luck charm. So yeah. The next game benchmarked is something that isn't usually benchmarked, but I thought it would be a nice addition to this video. It is Batman Arkham Asylum, and I was running this at 1080p all medium with 4x MSAA enabled. And while walking through the intro, I was getting a variety of frame rates. Most of the time I was above 40. A lot of the time it was also above 50. However, in certain scenes I was about in the mid 30s. So there is a bit of variation there, but the game mostly stuck to a very playable 40 plus. 50 plus mostly, actually, I would say. So I believe it's a playable experience, and the game actually looks pretty good on medium settings. The MSA also helps, and I'm surprised the graphics card is even running at that settings. So yeah. Now, the final game is Minecraft. Now, there's not really much need for explanation here. Minecraft run butterly smooth, 100 FPS most of the time, even when I was like bombing people with a bunch of TNT. This was all on everything maxed out. Originally, the game was running on 8 chunks, and I was getting above 200 frames. When I put it down up to 16 chunks to get a bit more of a strain on the system, the CPU was doing a bit more than the GPU, and it was running above 100 FPS anyway, so I believe Minecraft is a perfect game to play in this sort of system, and I definitely recommend it. Yeah. Hello, I am back, and now that you've seen the benchmarks, I'm just going to talk a bit about how the PC was set up. Now, the original core clock of the CPU was left unchanged since they didn't want to overclock a CPU on an OEM motherboard, which would be a bit rough to do, and also I didn't have the cooling solutions. It was just a regular stock cooler, as you saw. The only thing that was really changed was I bumped up the graphics processing clock on the GPU in MSI Afterburner by 100 MHz, and I bumped the memory clock by 50 MHz in order to increase some of the performance in certain games. Because, for example, when I was first testing Skyrim, I was getting about 25 FPS, for example, in Whiterun. When I bumped up the clock, I was getting 35. So giving me about a 10%, not 10%, Jesus Christ, 10 FPS increase, which I believe is beneficial. And also, as you can look at the temperatures, at no point was the CPU even nearing its maximum temperature. It usually stuck around 65. Obviously, it was actually the case was actually open at the time, but I can assure you that when I was testing this earlier with the case closed, the maximum temperature I reached on the GPU was 72 degrees Celsius, which is really not a lot, especially if it's running at 100% and it's overclocked. So that was the only changes made to the system. Apart from that, it's all stock. So to conclude, I believe that I did a pretty good job of getting this PC, and it is definitely a viable solution if you want a budget gaming experience where you can play games at a playable rate and just have some fun during this quarantine. However, if you have a bit more of a budget than me, I would definitely recommend picking a different graphics card. I would go with the GT 1030, which is a much newer card, and it's also a low profile card made not for gaming, but the performance difference compared to the GT 710 will be big. I can probably estimate 40-50 FPS more on most games. Okay, maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but definitely a bit much better performance. And as for office PCs, if you need to purchase one and you cannot get one for free, if you go on eBay, there's going to be plenty of those available, and you'll be able to buy them for cheap. And then the graphics card can also be bought used or new, and can be put in, and that can be your gaming rig, your budget gaming rig, just like the one I built here. So to conclude, is it worth it? Potentially, depending on what you're looking for. Is it easy to do? Yeah. No wires really involved. It's all just click in. Some DIY may be involved if you want to shut the case. Like for example, I had to remove some of the metal parts, but all you need for that is a screwdriver. And yeah, I mean, this is a very simple setup. It works well, and that's really all I got this video. I did upgrade my actual recording, editing main PC recently, so if you want to make a video on that, let me know in the description. But I'd like to thank you all for watching, and goodbye.